All right, class, what I want you to go ahead and do is open up the document on Vanco Hall under Chapter 13 that says Chapter 13 Stock Dividend Example to Follow. Now, I am going to go step by step with you, and I've written out some steps for this document for you to follow. So listen to the video as I do this problem so you can go ahead and do the stock dividend practice problem for homework that's right below it. It shouldn't take you that long to do these problems. I'm guessing maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes tops to do both, or I forget exactly how many problems I have on the stock dividend homework question. So when you open up the document, you're going to see a Chapter 13 example problem. Now, the first thing I want you guys to understand is obviously make sure you read the directions. Okay, hopefully by now you've already listened to the stock dividend video. So you should have a little bit of background as you followed along the videos for that. So this video is going to go word for word for the problem that will open up when you click on the document. So it says, number one, U Corp is paying a stock dividend of 5% to shareholders of record on March 1st. They declared the dividend on February 1st and they're paying on April 1st. Their stock had a market value of $12 per share and a par value of $7. They have 300,000 shares authorized, 4,000 shares unissued, and 5,000 shares held in treasury. Please prepare the journal entries for the stock dividend. Now I've listed out 7 steps for you to pay attention to. So I'm going to go through those steps first, and we'll work with those 7 steps. And then below that, you'll see the actual journal entries that I have down for you for those steps. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing this I'm partially typing things in and going to do this with you guys live on the video so that this way you actually see what my mindset is when I'm actually doing a problem like this. Okay. So the first thing you should know is obviously we're declaring stock dividends here. So if we're giving out stock dividends, we are not going to be paying cash. We're going to be giving them stock in return. There's reasons why we give a stock dividend as opposed to a cash dividend, and that's, within the video, there's some videos on why we do that. So if you have trouble following along, the PowerPoints do have things in parentheses, which you can follow along, but I've also broken it down into the 7 steps. So step 1, figure out the number of outstanding shares, because we only pay dividends. Whether it's a cash dividend or a stock dividend like we're doing here, we only pay dividends on outstanding shares of stock. So that goes back to you having to use your tree diagram. And if anything, to remind you of your tree diagram, you start at the very top with authorized, you break up into issued and unissued, and then your issued part breaks into treasury stock and outstanding. So in this case, we have 300,000 shares that are authorized, which that's the top of the tree. Next thing it says, we have 4,000 shares that are unissued. So if we follow along, we got 300,000 shares, and we're going to subtract the 4,000 because that's going to give us the number of issued shares. Now, the number of issued shares breaks up into those 2 things, which we said were treasury stock and outstanding. So in this case, 300,000 minus 4,000 gives us our 296. 5,000 in treasury, so we're going to subtract the 5,000 in treasury, which is going to leave us 291,000 outstanding shares. Okay? That's step 1. We have that number. Step 2 says to multiply the number of outstanding by the percent. So you're going to take 291,000 and you're going to go ahead and you're going to multiply by, and in this case it's 5%, which is going to come out to 14,550. Now, what I need you to understand about that number is the total number of new shares that we're going to issue. That is not a monetary value. That is only a number of shares. Please, 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 please make sure that you understand the difference between the number of shares that we're going to issue and the value of those shares. Okay? That's a very important key to keep in mind. 14,550 is the number of new shares. That is not the value of the shares. Step 3 is where we actually figure out the value of those shares. So we've done step 2. We multiplied the outstanding by the percentage. That was 291,000 times 0.05, which is 5%. And that came out to 14,550. That's the number of new shares. Make sure you label that new shares. And I said, step 3, take note from step 2 and multiply by the market price. So we're going to go ahead and take the 14,550 and we're going to multiply by the market price of $12. So once you figure that out, multiply 14,550 times 12, that comes out to 174,600. That is going to be our debit to our account of stock dividends. Pretty easy so far. Step 4, take the number from step 2. And this is why I told you to pay attention to that number. Take the number from step 2 and multiply this time, not by the market value, but by the par value. So now what you have to do is you have to go and you take the 14,550, wrong amount, 14,550 times the the par value, which is 7, which leaves you a credit for 101,850. Okay? 101,850. Now you've got those two. Now step 5 says use the APIC, which is our APIC account, additional paid in capital, if needed to make the journal entry balance. Typically, if needed, it will be a credit. Okay? So now in this case, all you need to do is just subtract those two numbers. So we're going to take the 174,600 and subtract the 101,800, which is going to leave us 72,750, I believe. Right here, 72,750. Good. So does everybody see how that works out? Okay, that's how you go about getting your numbers for that. Now, step 6 is record your record date, which there is no entry. Just write the words no entry, and you can see that I have it written there. The next item says step 7, payment date is to debit common stock distributable and credit common stock. So in this case, common stock distributable, if you look up at the prior journal entry, was 101,850. So you're going to debit that, which is going to get rid of your liability account. And then you are going to go ahead and you're going to credit common stock distributable for the same amount, which that is the value of the stock that we're giving out, the par value. Okay? So follow along. The one other question that I usually sometimes ask, and I like to ask this on the exam, how many shares of stock are outstanding
unknown column
after how many shares of stock are outstanding after the stock split, after the stock dividend has been paid? Now, the way you answer that question is number 1, at the beginning, we originally had 291,000 shares, I believe, outstanding prior to us paying the dividend. Prior to the dividend. Okay. Now, on the April 1st journal entry, which is our payment date, we gave out more shares of stock. Now, the key here is, this is why I tell you have to make sure that you know the difference between the number of shares and the value of shares. So in the question that I'm asking, I'm saying how many shares of stock are outstanding after the stock dividend is paid? Well, we had the 291 from the beginning, and then we went ahead and we issued 14,550 more shares. Okay? That is not the value. That is solely the number of shares. So to find the answer to the question, you just simply have to add those two numbers together. So if you go in your calculator and you take 291 and then you go ahead and add, jeez, the calculator's not working very good right now, 291,000, and you're going to add the 14,550. It's going to give you a total shares outstanding of 305,550. Okay? So the key here I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and follow this problem along with the video so that you see what the problem is going to entail, what kind of work is going to be expected of you to complete that. It's not a very difficult problem. The key here is just more so understanding why we do what we do and how it affects things. Keep in mind the difference between number of shares and the value of the shares. Okay? Make sure you can tell that difference. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this video, get this uploaded for you, and we're going to keep on rolling.